HVAC 360, episode number 55. AeroSeal update. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of HVAC 360. I am your host, Matt Nelson. This week on HVAC 360, we're going to kind of kick off our series on the AHR Expo that I just got back from. This year it was held in beautiful Dallas, Texas. Everything's bigger than Texas, and I guess a congratulations goes out to Dallas because the AHR show this year was bigger than any of the previous shows in Dallas. So congratulations there for a record-setting show. Hey, a couple of things that I noticed at the show this year that were kind of interesting. You know, I've always touted that you never really necessarily see the big boys at the show. But this year I did see, I saw Carrier, and of course Trane was in full strength. Actually, Trane, I'll just point out, was celebrating their 100-year anniversary. So I guess happy anniversary to Trane. Congratulations! It was good to see everybody there, and that booth was pretty packed. You started walking around the show, and there was a little bit of a log jam around around the Trane booth. So, obviously, this week we're going to be talking to Neal Walsh again from AeroSeal, and we went back to Neal because we just couldn't. He's such a nice guy, and we just couldn't get enough of Neal. Actually, he had a really good publicist, and I think that he really pitched him hard. But it's always good to talk to Neal. I'm very excited about what Neal has to bring, and I kind of wanted to get an update as far as where he was with his business. I mean, still relatively new, growing in the U.S. And trying to establish the brand. So I heard some good things, and there again, just wanted to stop by and talk with Neal. Now, if you remember, if you are a avid listener to HVAC 360, you will very well know that episode number 34 talks about AeroSeal, and we talked to Neal. And basically, we go through just about everything, going from the background of the process to, it's from the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs to how it actually works. I guess, at this point, I'm pretty much, AeroSealed out, except, I'd really like to get, some sort of visual demonstration of, how the product works, because I think that might be, a good kind of added benefit to what you probably are missing. Anyway, I won't go into it too much further, so let's just stop here and cut to the tape with Neal Walsh. All right, we're on the floor of the AHR Expo here in Dallas. It's 2013. I'm sitting here with Neal Walsh. How you doing today, Neal?
I'm doing great, Matt. It's just been a fun year since we've talked last time, and it's been a year of growth for AeroSeal. We've really seen a huge increase in demand, not only in the States, but also as abroad. Excellent.
Now, so, what are some of the international things that have been going on?
Well, we just got back from Abu Dhabi, where we did a hospital over there. We've seen a huge increase in demand in Europe, both in the northern European countries and specifically now migrating down into Germany and France, where they're beginning to adopt some of those northern European energy codes that have been around since the 60s. The net result is building owners all over Europe now are looking for ways to reduce energy, and they're looking at ventilation as one of those key opportunities for them. And they're calling on AeroSeal to get out there and seal those air ducts. And so we're really seeing the market take off in Europe for energy savings.
Fantastic. So now, as far as the technology goes, it really hasn't changed all that much in a year, has it?
No, the technology's remained the same. We're still taking that vinyl acetate polymer and spraying it into the duct system and getting the leakage out. What we're just seeing is a growing awareness in the market about the benefits of AeroSeal, the benefits of the savings associated with AeroSeal. Let me just give you a quick study. Back in July, the U.S. Green Building Council launched a new initiative to give existing buildings a new award called EBs. And AeroSeal was awarded an EB award for new technology along with Stephen Winter Associates. In that specific example, the building owner saved over 30% annually on their heating costs because of sealing up the ventilation system. What they did is they reduced all of that cold air that was being sucked into the building because the fans were running too hard, because they were able to seal up the ventilation shafts and get them going. And that was on top of an additional $7,000 a year that they saved on fan energy. So that's the type of results our customers are seeing on the energy side that's really getting people engaged in solving this problem. Plus, we're seeing, as the word on AeroSeal gets out, we're seeing a huge amount of not only energy retrofits, Matt, but we're seeing ventilation retrofits. Healthcare, higher educations, laboratories are all coming to us saying, hey, we've got ventilation issues. We got buildings that can't breathe properly. We've got sick building syndromes. We got IQ issues. We've got mold growth. How do we deal with that? Up until now, there really hasn't been a good way to deal with it. But with the ability to be able to get into the duct system, to seal it out without touching the duct system, now we're talking about a revolutionary procedure. Now we're starting to have a lot of interest in that.
Excellent. Now, so what are some of the other commercial studies? You mentioned some of the healthcare that you've been getting into. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think that's a big area of concern for us, trying to, because obviously there's spaces that you think are trying to control the humidity really tightly, mm-hmm. And when you get that leakage, like you're saying, you're kind of actually drawing in outside air. What are some examples of that?
Yeah, what we're seeing in the healthcare side of it specifically, Matt, is that there's three main transmission rates for disease in hospital: airborne, bloodborne, and physical transmission. Airborne transmission is over half the problem in hospitals, and we know it all has to do with improper pressurization. You got somebody that's in a sick room, nurse opens the door, that room's pressurized because it's not ventilating properly. Guess what? All those bugs go where? They go right out into the hall. There's code compliance issues, there's pressurization issues, there's air changes per hour issues. And so we're having hospitals come to us. We have hospitals up in Canada all the way down to Florida, up and down the eastern seaboard are now coming to us saying, hey, we need a fix to these ventilation problems because we need to get compliant with our air changes per hour and our pressurization rates in our rooms. And we're able to step up and help them achieve those rates.
And I got to imagine that knowing hospitals like I do, it has to be, doing this duct sealing, the way the system operates has to be a lot easier on the protocol that has to be in place, because you don't have to open up the ceiling. You don't have to, you can go right from the diffuser.
Exactly. We're dealing with several hospitals in New York City, and they have asbestos. And they're terrified of being able to remove those ceiling tiles, be able to touch in that. And they love the idea that they can actually go in and do an energy retrofit that's going to improve the building's ventilation, reduce their sick building syndrome incidence, and at the same time not be able to address the asbestos issues they have in the hospital. And we're seeing amazing results. We're seeing over a 90% reduction in the leakage and ventilation, 90% reduction in the leakage rates in these hospitals when we go in and seal up the ventilation systems.
Now, I guess, from my perspective, is there any other kind of markets that have been a surprise to you that you've been getting into?
That's a great question. We continue to see a lot of growth in the multifamily market, a lot of high-rise building owners that are looking for weatherization issues. We're also seeing laboratories. Recently, we were at a trade show up in San Jose, and we were talking with laboratory owners, and we were seeing a tremendous amount of interest in them in being able to reduce their energy costs. For-profit, public, and national laboratories are all up against the same issues. They have very critical air quality goals that they have to meet, and they have very high energy bills for the ventilation systems in these laboratories. And what they're finding up until now is AeroSeal is a great way to get into the ventilation system and improve their energy costs, because now they can get those general exhaust systems and the general supply air systems to work properly.
Excellent. So now, as far as the adoption, what percentage, still is basically from the owner side versus the engineer side? Are you starting to see a push by the engineers to get into the specifications, or is it still mostly a retrofit adoption?
We're beginning to see a growth rate in specification rates, definitely across the country. By being at places like the AHR show, by being at Greenbuild, now we're getting the word out to architects and engineers, and they're passing along to business owners that they start to integrate some of this technology up front into the building design.
Excellent. I guess what anything else that's new that you can think of that you can add? I'm putting you on a spot here, that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. You've got me tongue-tied for once, Matt. Well, I guess what we would say is that we're looking to increase the number of a big push on the West Coast this year. So I think really you're beginning to see up and down the West Coast a big increase in demand for AeroSeal. We've got some exciting projects on the way on the West Coast, and as they start getting closer to fruition, we'll give you a call and show you some of the results we have.
Excellent. Now, as far as like, is it fairly? I mean, do you have projects all over the country? Like, if somebody wanted to, talk to an owner or actually see a application installation, how can somebody, do that? Is it fairly spread out?
Absolutely. We're two ways. If you really want to get a sense of AeroSeal, number one, let's get you on the newsletter. Every month we publish a case study. It's a great way to be able to see different studies, different results of different business owners as they're all across the country of what's going on. The second way is that, as projects are coming up, if you're interested, contact us and we'll put you in contact with the owner and you can talk with them directly about what sort of results that they've seen.
Excellent. So, and they get on the newsletter by going to aeroseal.com?
Yeah, just come to aeroseal.com and we'll get you enrolled on the newsletter, and you can get it every month. And not only will it give you case studies of what we're doing in the commercial field, but it'll also share best practices about what contractors are doing all across the country and show you what's going on within the area of duct sealing as far as trends in legislation and utilities. One of the things that we're really seeing on the residential side of the business, Matt, is a tremendous spurt in growth. Utilities are beginning to bring on residential rebate programs. Over 40 states all across the United States right now have at least one utility program. The average money back is about $250. And Matt, that's on top of $150 to $200 federal tax credit. So now the average homeowner in the United States is probably looking at about a third of the cost of the AeroSeal solution. The retail price is about $1,500, and they can get a third of that back, either as tax credits or rebates from their local utility. And that's really one of the reasons why we're beginning to see a tremendous upswing in the interest in AeroSeal duct sealing.
Excellent. Well, all right. Well, hey, I appreciate the update, Neal, and I appreciate you just being on the show.
Matt, thank you. It's great seeing you again. Have a great show.
All right. And we are back. Special thanks again to Neal. It was really great to hear him talk about the wonderful things that are happening actually internationally with AeroSeal. I think that's really fantastic, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But no, Neal is the one thing that really gets me about Neal is he's so passionate about what he does and the product that he represents. And from what I can see, it's just it's nothing short of amazing. It's kind of magical, and knowing that going through the whole thing with installing ductwork and sealing it and making sure that it's airtight, you really like to know. Because there are no arrows in ductwork telling the air exactly where to go, it just kind of goes where the least path of least resistance, leaks out everywhere if you don't seal it properly. And it's nice to know that there's a product out there that kind of fits in this blind spot of the duct sealing, and hopefully some people can make some good use out of it and make to their benefit and make some profit. So kind of a win-win for everybody. Thanks everybody for listening. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it wasn't, this was a relatively short one this week, so I won't kind of belabor this too much. But again, if you have any show ideas, let me know. You can email me at matt@buildingx.co with any feedback, comments, anything you want. Speaking of comments, anybody who downloads this via iTunes, I'd really appreciate if you have something good to say. Put it in the comments section for iTunes. Just add that. I'd be very appreciative. I've got a lot of good comments through that way, and if you haven't done so, just type a few sentences for me. I'd really appreciate that. Or if you just want to leave a rating, that's fine too. Email, Twitter, you can connect with me at Building X, LinkedIn, Matt Nelson PE. So you can get a hold of me that way. I'd love to connect with you and my listening audience. That would be great. The top 3%, always striving to make yourself better, and that's what I appreciate about you. So also sign up for the newsletter that's going out on a semi-regular basis now as of this posting. So that you can sign up at buildingx.co. And that pretty much does it. So, I'll just remind you, until next time, remember, know what you build and share what you know.